Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another of Action Coach's webinars. It's Tuesday the 21st. The month seems to be passing really quickly, but it's great you've found time to join us this morning. Thank you. And I want to welcome our speaker guest on the webinar this morning, Simon Washbrook from Popcorn. Welcome, Simon.
Morning, guys.
How are you keeping? All right, you keeping well and safe, I hope?
Yeah, all good here. We've got a lovely sunny day for it as well, so all good. Thank you.
Good. So this morning's webinar is all about key steps to take in your business, and with a particular focus on communicating with customers, which is why we have Simon with us. He's an expert with his business on how to communicate with customers and how to contact them. And we'll be talking a bit more about that later on, which is great to have you with us, Simon. So this morning's webinar is all about communication, but it's also about some of the key steps we think you should be taking, or would recommend you take in your business. And we've done a number of these webinars over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and the consistent theme throughout them all has been about having a plan about how you're going to drive your business forward so it survives and thrives into the future. I myself have always been a big Blackadder fan, and I always love it when Baldrick says to Blackadder, "Fear not, sir, for I have a cunning plan." And that's no more relevant now than it has ever been before. It's really important to think about your plan, how you're going to drive your business forwards. And even if you had a plan for 2020, I'm sure many of you did, but the world has changed, as you know. The economy's changed, and the way we're running and operating our businesses will need to change. So your plan needs to change with it, guys. So if you have one, it's time to update it. If you don't have one, it's absolutely time to draft your plan and pull your plan together right now. We're going to be together for about 50 minutes. I try and keep to time on these, so we'll come to an end about 11 o'clock, depending on how much Simon talks as well. But I'm sure he'll keep his part limited as well. But this morning we're going to be talking a bit about mindset, and then we're going to go through some of the key steps that we believe are crucial in taking for any business to take right now. Simon's going to talk in depth about communication with customers. Then we're going to touch a bit on the support that's available out there from the government right now and other organisations. And then there's an opportunity for some interaction, as there will be throughout the webinar, and an opportunity for you to connect. If indeed you are on the Zoom webinar this morning, it's great to have you on the webinar itself, and we look forward to your comments, your feedback, and your questions. There's a question and answer box at the top of the screen, and it'd be great for you to ask questions of both myself and Simon as we go along. Feel free to interrupt. We also have Glenn Cameron, one of my colleagues from Action Coach, in the background. He is not only monitoring the Q&A box, but he's got the technical know-how to be able to broadcast this onto Facebook. So if you are watching us on Facebook this morning through one of the groups, or indeed watching us afterwards on YouTube, please do put comments in there. Glenn and I have got an ongoing bit of a battle between us to see who can broadcast the furthest. We've had people in various countries around the world over the last few weeks, and it'd be lovely to know, for my benefit, if nobody else's, where you're listening to us today, so I can keep hold of that crown. So please do put where you're broadcasting, where you're listening to us from, and your contact details. It'd be lovely to keep in touch. If you have any questions and you're on Facebook, put your questions in the Q&A or the comments box below, and we will of course contact you immediately after the webinar if we can't do it during the webinar. Questions for either of us, and we'll make sure that either Simon or I get back to you straight away. Simon, I'm going to introduce Action Coach in a minute. Do you just want to say a bit more about Popcorn and what you do?
Yeah, I suppose, but the best way to describe Popcorn is we're a really simple to use customer conversion tool. We're kind of an easy way to nurture your customers and convert them. Also, sorry, because I can't speak this morning. This is not a good start.
Too early for
Yeah, it's an easy way to nurture your contacts and to convert them into customers. So typically what that means is we kind of replace tools such as MailChimp, Trello, spreadsheets, Outlook, all that sort of stuff, bring it all together in one place. We also might mitigate the needs for people to move on to complex and sort of expensive tools like HubSpot and Salesforce. So bring all that data together and just help business owners do it simply, do it fast, but generate sales lead prospects from it by tracking their behaviors online. So that's a bit about us. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Simon. And for both organisations, our contact details, we'll make sure you have those at the end of the webinar as well. So if you want to contact either of us, we'll make sure those details are shared with you. You're also sort of wondering who Action Coach is if you've not had any contact with us before. So Action Coach, we're based in Birmingham at Fort Dunlop. I'm not sitting on the M6, by the way. I'm sitting at my home, but I've got this great background behind me. We are based in the Fort Dunlop building just beside the M6. We're part of the world's #1 coaching firm, and we have over 1,000 coaching offices in 80 countries worldwide. And we've been privately owned and funded for over 25 years by Brad Sugars. If you don't know who Brad Sugars is, absolutely recommend right now, or not right now because you're listening to me, but when you finish listening to me and Simon, go and Google him, look him up on LinkedIn or Facebook. He's got some great content out there right now to help support you in your business. I had the privilege of meeting Brad back in February, and I got chatting to him and I said, Brad, we're in 80 countries right now. What's your vision for the future? And without any hesitation at all, he said, Steve, we're going to be in 109 countries. And I thought, that's great. I love the positivity, but why 109? I thought. So I asked him that question. He said, because McDonald's are in 108. So he's got that real vision and ambition to grow the business, to be a business that can support entrepreneurs and business owners around the world. And his vision, is very simply written, is world abundance through business re-education. He really believes in the power of having that business support, like any coach in the sporting arena would have, any sports person in the sporting arena would have a coach working alongside them. And I use that analogy day in, day out to describe what we do. If you take any sports personality and they've got a coach usually behind them, take the England rugby team with Eddie Jones. Eddie doesn't sit there and teach the England rugby players how to play rugby. They already know how to do it. And I wouldn't come along to talk to Simon and say, Simon, this is how you need to run your business in terms of communication and specifics around your business, because you know that better than I do. What we at Action Coach do is actually look at the basic fundamentals of any business, the marketing, the communication, the cash flow, the finances, and help business owners to use that, to work on those skills to run their business even more efficiently and make small changes in their business so that they can grow their business and help it to survive and thrive into the future. And that's what a coach does in the sporting arena, doesn't it? A coaching will take the team onto one side, give them a different perspective, give them tips on how they can play even better, and take the learnings from every single game they play to enhance their play going forwards. We do exactly the same, and we've been doing it for many years in many countries around the world. In terms of what you can expect today, if you've got children at home, and I had the privilege of meeting Simon, your daughter earlier on, and we're both talking about homeschooling. And this is a little tip from me. Whilst your kids aren't looking, now is the time to go and pinch their coloured felt tips and their coloured crayons. And I would encourage you to do that every time you're on a webinar, every time you're in a learning environment. Grab your kids' coloured felt tips, and when you get back to the shops, buy your own pack, because I would really encourage you to take your notes in full multicolour. Why do I say that? Well, the brain works in two halves. We have the artistic side, the musical side, the colourful side, and then we have the other side of the brain, which is more theological, theoretical, numerical, logical. And by taking your notes in full colour, we're trying to get both sides of the brain to work better together. And I know that for one, I remember when I was at school actually, and I used to get told off for doodling in my notebooks. But for me, that helped my notes to come alive. And if you are doing that with your notes, if you're drawing pictures, if you're highlighting using different colours, when you come back to the notes from this webinar tomorrow, next week, they will make a lot more sense than just black ink on a piece of paper. So ditch your black biro, ditch your blue biro, and go and nick your kids' colouring pens right now and use those to take your notes. What else can you expect from this morning from both Simon and I? Well, we're both hoping that you'll have what I will call BFOs. What are BFOs? They're blinding flashes of the obvious. I hope there'll be things that both Simon and I say this morning that you may well have heard before, or you may well have bits of information floating around in your brain on either side that will suddenly get connected together by the information that we want to share with you this morning. It's that sort of aha moment where the circuit is completed with the bit of information that we're going to share, or the way we bring those bits of information together for you, and the light bulb goes on. If you have one of those this morning, please do share it in the box. Make the comments on the Facebook page. It'd be lovely to know that light bulb is going on for you this morning, and you've got something valuable out of this webinar from either Simon or myself that you can take away and apply to your business. I started the webinar this morning, and some of you who've been with us before would have heard me say this, but I started by saying thank you for choosing to be with us. When you woke up this morning, you got the kids working on their homeschooling, you had a choice about whether you carried on with that, did something else with your business, or you tuned into this webinar this morning. And we all have a choice on everything we do in our business lives, in our personal lives. And you have a choice, but I'm sure you'll come across people who, when I talk about, they slip into bed. They go under the covers, under the line of choice, and start talking the language which is full of blame, excuse, and denial. And the easiest way, very briefly, to describe this is when I turned on the TV the first week of the lockdown, and there was people there who were out on the Snowdonia Mountains. I'm sure you saw that as well, Simon. And there's people cycling in the Yorkshire moors and people gathering in the parks or on the beaches having barbecues. and they're in complete denial about the situation we all find ourselves in. And when they're approached by the police, they're full of excuses and full of blame. It's all about why me? It doesn't apply to me. I'm different. And what I'm encouraging you to do is to take ownership, accountability, and responsibility, and to think about how you can make a difference to yourself, how you can make a difference in your community right now, but most importantly, how you can make a difference to your business right now. And by taking that mindset into having a positive mindset, you'll find that you're full of energy. You'll find that you're somebody who has the passion, the ambition, and the energy to drive your business forwards. And guess what? That's who many people want to do business with. That's, I'm sure, who your customers will come to. They'll want to come to somebody who's got that leadership, that ownership, and that accountability, and that responsibility in their business, that passion and that drive. Nobody wants to do business with somebody who's half empty, who's full of blame, excuses, and denial. So in everything you do, just think about how you can stay above the line. I've got a lovely finger pointing there, and if I was to point the finger at Simon right now, which I'm doing, of course, there's 3 fingers pointing back at me. So it's about what can I do to make a difference, not what can everybody else do, especially now in the circumstances we all find ourselves operating in. And it is about making key decisions. And I just love this chart here on the screen right now. It's all about the last few months and where we find a buoyant start to the year, to 2020. Things were on a good trajectory. Our sales, I'm sure, were going up, and businesses were growing. And then suddenly we were hit by the news of the COVID-19, and our businesses started to take a dive. And for many of us, most of us, the impact once lockdown hit has been significant. It's been huge. There are businesses out there that are doing really well. I can think of many of the supermarkets who are probably, sort of bringing in huge amounts of profit. And I hope that they will use some of that to benefit the communities in which they operate. I'm sure they are. But for many of us, it's had a huge impact on our sales. And it's about now how we can survive and how we can change our business models. I'm going to go on to some of the things around that today. But it is really key. It's the decisions we make now on our business, about our business and about ourselves, about who we are, and how we want to drive our business forward. It will have an impact on our business into the future. It really is so important. We take this time out, and it's an unprecedented time where I've been talking to business owners for many years, and it's about, I never find the time to take out of my business to work on my business. Well, hey, guess what, guys? We've got that golden opportunity right now to work on our business, to make some key decisions, to have that positive mindset to drive our business forwards. And I'll share a great slide at the end, but the one thing I do know, and I'm sure some will agree on this, is we're not going back to the way we used to work in the past. It feels like we've been catapulted forward a whole decade. I mean, I was talking to my parents at the weekend, and I had 3 generations of family all on Zoom at the same time. That didn't happen even 3 weeks ago. The way we do business, the way we communicate with our friends, our families, and everybody has changed, and it's going to change forever. The way we do business, the way we work is going to be so different going forwards. And so it's really important to take this time to think about how you can drive your business forward, how you can adapt your business, how you can adapt to a new way of working to ensure your business survives. And I'll just show this slide before I go on to some of the key steps and talk about, and Simon's going to talk about communication. But where do you find yourself right now in terms of the pandemic that's hit the community and hit this country? Are you still in the fear zone? And I was doing a webinar yesterday all about mindset. And what is fear? It's false expectations appearing real. And if you have a fear of something, the very best way to get over that fear is to just get on and take the first step. So if you're fear of spiders, go and pick up a spider and put it outside. Actually just do something to get over that first step of your fear. But are you in the learning zone? Are you now in a stage where you've moved from the fear and you're now in the learning zone? The reason I love that circuit is we all need to try and get into the growth zone. We need to think about how we can help ourselves, how we can help our businesses, and how we can help others. And the other thing, that there are many people I come across, business owners right now, who are still worried about things they can't control. They're still worried about other people's views, other people's words, other people's actions, other people's behaviors. And yes, we all have some concerns about us at times, but it's about how we can deal with that, park that, and focus our time and our energy right now on the things that we can control and we can do something about in our business and in our personal lives. So we can control our words, our ideas, our efforts on our business. We can learn from our mistakes. We can control how we balance our work and life, our work-life balance. We can control our actions and our behaviors. And those actions and those behaviors, I guarantee you, by having a positive mindset, will lead to better results in your business. And I just want to leave you with these couple of quotes before we move on to the steps to take in your business and sort of hand over to Simon. But there's a great business coach called Jim Rohn, and he has 2 wonderful quotes, which I refer to day in, day out. And one is, never wish your life were easier, but wish that you were better. And the second one, most importantly of all right now, is to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you take that attitude and take that mindset forwards into your work, into your business, and into your life generally, I guarantee that success in your business will flow, will manifest automatically, because you've got that positive mindset on your business. Yes, it's going to be hard work, absolutely, but it's about working on yourself and your own mental state and your mental attitude and your physical actions on your business. Work harder on yourself in every aspect to drive your business forwards. Just before I carry on, Glenn, is there any questions, any comments in the background before I go on to the key steps? Hopefully Glenn's there. I think Glenn's muted himself by mistake. I'll carry on. Glenn, if there's any questions in the background, do interject with me. So the steps, we've got a number of key steps to take that we recommend you take in your business. And I've just started talking about positive communication, and Simon may well touch on this later on. But positive communication is so important right now. So important to be communicating. Panic and worry never helps at all. It's about having that positive mindset and positive communication, not just with your team, but think about how you can communicate. And I know Simon's going to talk on this. Positive communication with your customers, positive communication with your networks, with your suppliers and your stakeholders, but most of all, positive communication with your community. It is really important right now to share that your business is still there, still surviving, and you're planning for the revival, the thriving of your business going forward. I was talking to a colleague on a webinar last week about marketing, and we were saying that there's going to come a time when everybody is in a position, or people start to be in a position where they want to spend money again. They have the confidence to be able to spend money going forward, and they're going to have potential customers and clients going forwards are going to try and have to decipher between those businesses that are still operating and those businesses that are sadly folded and no longer operating at all. They've gone out of business, and you want to make sure that people, your potential future customers, know you're there, know that you're successful, and know that you have great products and services to offer. So it's about communicating with your customers continually. And I have to say, I've never felt so loved in the last few weeks. I've had so many emails from big corporate organizations saying they're here for me. I've never felt so loved. I mean, the likes of John Lewis, Tesco's, Smith's Toys, you name it. They're all emailing me saying, we're here for you. They haven't quite said what they're going to do in practice, but they've just said they're here. So I know they're there. And it's the same with your organization right now. You need to communicate positively. And also it's about having clear vision and goals. You may have staff still working for you, you may have staff you put on furlough, but it's still important to communicate the visions and the goals of your business going forward with that positive mindset, so that they're on board, they're on the journey with you, so that when those staff come back in the future, they're there ready to run that race. And I'll come back to that later, but they're there to run the race with you, to strive and drive your business forwards. It's also about becoming stronger. And there's very few webinars when I reference Donald Trump, but he did coin the phrase fake news. So it's really important that you find out what the real truth is, what the news is going on. And I always tune into the Downing Street press conferences every day, but there is so much information and misinformation on the internet right now. And I just think of the example of the 5G masts. I don't know if that's true or not, but until I know the facts, I'm not going to reference or make decisions based on that. It's really important, particularly in your industry, that you research what's going on in your industry, find out what's going on in the news, the factual news, redo your research before sharing and making decisions about your business. You'll become stronger by finding the facts. Having said that about news, it's also important for your mindset and for yourself to make sure you only have a limited amount of news. We could all sit there with news running 24/7 in the background. That's not great for you. It's about holding back on information that you take in yourself, but also you share with your team until you've got the decisions, clear, concrete decisions, and a clear vision and goal and a plan to move forwards. So sometimes limiting the amount of information you share can be helpful. But the most important thing about communication is to lead your people right now, to have that really positive mindset, to drive your business forwards and know what you're going to do in the next 90 days, to make sure that everyone has an idea that the business of how the business is going to move forwards, and everyone is on the same page, all your staff and your customers, your networks, to really share with them that your ambition, your goals, your business, and talk in a really positive, you have it now, talk in a positive mindset to all of them.
If I could just jump in very quickly.
Absolutely, okay. Sam. Yeah, please do.
I think that what you've just said, that's absolutely spot on. But the one thing I'd sort of kind of add, and we'll perhaps talk about this a bit more, and you've alluded to, it's about a plan, especially around your communications, because
absolutely,
you need to have a clear strategy of what you're going to say to people. There's no point just sending a message out saying, hi, we're here, because it kind of disappears into the ether and it doesn't have the impact. You need to kind of make sure that you send out, as you rightfully said about the supermarkets, hi, we're here to support you, we're here to help, but then follow through with what you're going to do to help those people. Because if it starts to become, and I think I don't know whether you're alluding to this, but it starts to become a little bit insincere if you only have that one-off message.
Absolutely.
So the best thing to do in that situation is put a practical plan in place. Now, a plan doesn't have to be big and convoluted, but just go, right then, I'm going to send this out and this is my objective. So therefore, these are the steps I'm going to do to get to that place. And then once you've put those steps in place, just follow through. And one of the benefits of doing the plan is your subconscious. And this is a bit around the mindset, is even if you don't know exactly what you want to say, your subconscious is still going to work on what needs to be said. So when you come to need to send or want to send your next message, it's going to be a lot more coherent because your brain's already been working away on it, and you won't go into that sort of fear and panic stage about, I'm just going to throw something out.
No, great point, Simon. That's great. I think it's about consistency as well, isn't it? It's about not just doing it once, but consistently over the next few weeks, months, however long we're in lockdown and beyond. Make sure you don't just send one email, but you're doing it on a regular basis. I know that you can help and talk about that later on, but consistency and clarity is so important. Great point, Simon. Thanks. And please feel free to interject as we go along. And again, with our listeners, if you're there and you've got comments to make, please do interject. My next point to make was just about changing your business model. And there's many businesses that have had to think about how they change. We're now going into a virtual world, or a sort of online world, and that's how many services and products are going to be accessed and purchased right now. So how can you change your business model right now? Do you need to change your business model? Are there services that you can't offer in person anymore that you might be able to offer online? We at Action Coach, we used to do much of our training and coaching face-to-face. That's how we love to work. But we're now doing it all online. I'm based living down in Kent. My colleague Glenn is up in Birmingham. Simon, I think you're on the outskirts of Birmingham as well. But through technology, through using these online platforms, we're able to reach out to potential and current clients. There is a great formula that we use in thinking about change. And you're probably wondering what on earth I've written on the screen right there. D times V plus F must be greater than R. And as I said, I'm more of an artistic than a mathematical person, but I do love this formula. So R is the resistance that you're facing right now in your business. And F is the first steps you need to take. So if you take the D, the dissatisfaction, times it by the vision of your business, the vision you have for your business going forwards, add the first steps you need to take, then that has to be greater than the resistance you're facing right now. And those first steps are so crucial. And I talked earlier on, I referenced earlier on fear, and we did a really great mindset webinar yesterday. And if you haven't seen that, go and look at it online, or we'll be delivering it again next week. But fear can be such a sort of a blocker, something that holds you back. But it is really important to take those first steps, to get your plan in place, as Sam was talking about, and I'll come on to that again later, to get your plan in place and take those first steps, to just do it and get on, because that is the only way you're going to overcome the resistance that you're facing in the business. And those steps don't have to be big ones. Look at every aspect of your business, and you may make 100 small changes. You may tweak things in your processes, in your systemization, in your marketing, in your finances. It may be lots of small changes, or it could be one significant change. I was talking to a florist not long before we went into lockdown, and lockdown had just been announced, and it was just coming up to Mother's Day. So it seems a long time ago now. And she was sort of panicking because she'd lost a number of big orders on weddings, on funerals and events that she got coming up over the next few months. But she knew she had Mother's Day and needed to capitalize on that. So she very quickly revised the range of bouquets and made smaller bouquets to make her flowers go further, because she was also struggling to get supplies of flowers coming in. She then diversified and broadened her range, and she has done over the last few weeks, to include chocolates, cards, other gifts that she can send out as well. She's got a great service right now where she's reaching out to families and communicating, sort of sharing gifts and flowers. She's gone into pot plants. So she's made small changes to her business to help her survive. But she's also made one key change, and she's teamed up with a local fruit and vegetable supplier, and she's now doing fruit and veg boxes using her vans, her staff, and her systems to take orders. She's teaming up with somebody else who had a completely different business, but and what I would say, she's sweating her assets. So she's looked for the biggest opportunity with her business right now in the circumstances she's found herself in, and she's making the best of that opportunity to make sure that her business survives into the future. So it really is about sort of thinking what is the art of the possible? What else can you do that you may well have never ever considered before, but actually now is the time to do it to ensure your business survives? How can you change your business model? How can you change your product range? How can you change the access to your services to make sure that you can survive into the future? And consider who else is thriving out there, and can you tap into that? There are other businesses that are doing great. I've seen so many businesses around here where I live that are now supplying groceries that Tesco's can't do because they're so big they can't cope. They haven't got the delivery slots. Lots of small businesses now have teamed up with other business owners and are delivering locally in my community where I live. So how can you tweak your business model to make sure that you survive and thrive into the future?
Yeah, I think if I can jump in at the end, you've mentioned one of my absolute favourite phrases, and that's "just do it," because it was one of the bits of advice I got when I very first started my career off as a marketeer. Well, let's lie and say 4 or 5 years ago. But I think that I remember talking to my original boss, John Barker, and sort of saying that I wanted to get involved in all the strategy. I wanted to get involved in developing all these things. And I was using words I didn't really understand, but I kind of felt that I needed to say it because I wanted to be clever and do it. And he just turned around and he gave me the best bit of advice. And that was, marketing is 90% delivery and only 10% strategy. And what we need to do is that just do it. Because if you just do it, you get stuff done and delivered. And if you don't do that, then you can fall into the trap of over-intellectualizing a situation. And when you do that, you then start taking in too much information, you fall into paralysis, and therefore you don't deliver. So that 90% of your marketing fails. So just to reiterate what you're saying, just do it. But when you do it, try and have a plan that goes with it as well.
Absolutely. I know you'll come on to that. I mean, we talk about a business plan, but I've also been talking to many people about having a marketing plan as well. And almost it needs to sit alongside your business plan. You need your goals and your aim for your business, but then a separate marketing plan of how you're going to put it into practice. And the last point on this slide before I move on is, once you've found something that works, then think about how you can scale and leverage that. So how can you make this, make the best use of your time, your energy, and the investment in your business? And a really simple example of that is ourselves here at Action Coach. We started doing these webinars. We've been doing webinars for many years, but we started doing a higher number of webinars in the last 4 weeks. And after the first week, Glenn and I sat down and said, well, yes, it's great. We're getting good response on Zoom. We're getting people logged on, registering, etc. But how can we make that work even better by putting the same time in? And it's almost like that aha moment, that light bulb went on when we realized that we could actually broadcast onto Facebook. So as well as Simon and I sitting here with Glenn and doing an hour's worth of webinar and reaching, maybe 15, 20 people, we're now reaching not only live, but people reading it and watching it afterwards. Thousands of people, the interactions are going to thousands of people on Facebook, on social media, as a result of clicking one button within the Zoom panel. So just think about how you can leverage your same time, your same investment in your business to reach further, particularly in your marketing. And Simon's the expert in that area, and I'll let him come on to that later on. But it's how you can leverage your investment and your time in your business to get better results once you've found a magic formula that works for you. The next of my points, very briefly, then I really am going to hand over to you, Simon. But the next of my points is about cash flow management. And I don't know when any of you last reviewed your cash flow. In the current climate, I'd be saying to you, you need to be reviewing your cash flow on a weekly basis. And that's a case of just, in its very basic form, making a list of all the expenses associated with your business right now. Make a list of them on one side of the paper, and then on the other side, make a list of all the outgoings. So all the outgoings on the other side, all the money you're expecting to come in, all the receipts for your business. And do that in a very simple Excel spreadsheet and understand what you anticipate the balance in the bank to be week by week. So you have some idea of the cash flow over the next few weeks. It's really important to then think about, how can you strategically prune your business? And I was doing a webinar yesterday on 8 ways to reinvent yourself. And we had this lovely image of a fruit tree. And I'm not a gardener, but it looks like you are, Simon. But if you have a fruit tree growing in the garden, I believe that the gardeners are encouraged to strategically prune that tree each year to take, to sort of prune it, thin it out, to encourage new growth and to encourage the fruit to grow on that tree. So it's the same with your business. How can you make some strategic pruning in your business right now to ensure it survives, but to help it grow new shoots into the future? It's a great time to think about how you can cut out some of the dead wood, to go on the gardening analogy again, and cut out some of those unnecessary costs in your business, and also to think about how you can extend your credit options. Not that you may ever need it over the next few months, but if you've got the availability of credit right now, get it in place so you can access it should you get into difficult times. It's also really important to think about how you can have conversations with your suppliers and your partners. Where can you renegotiate with them? Where can you extend your terms, renegotiate your terms and conditions with your suppliers and your partners? I've got a slide later on that goes through many of the government programs, and we'll also pull together the information that the government have put together to support business. I mean, to support your business. There's an unprecedented amount of support right now for small businesses from the government, which shows the confidence they have in the economy bouncing back after we've come out of lockdown. But it's about making sure you've researched that information. And what I would say is make sure you research it and then research it again. Because only last week there was changes to the furlough scheme, the job retention scheme, and the government are continually updating the terms and conditions of their support. So once you've researched it, research it again. I'd also say postpone what you can. And a great example of this, I've been coaching a big business in Birmingham, a manufacturing company, and not long before the pandemic, so the end of last year, they'd agreed the purchase of some new machinery there for their factory. Coming from Malaysia, was due to be delivered around about now. As soon as the lockdown hit, they went back to that manufacturer. They were just about to ship the machinery and have postponed the delivery of it, and therefore postponed the first payment, the first installment for that new piece of machinery. So what can you postpone in your business? If you have agreements in place, how can you postpone or slow things down to ensure your cash flow can last this difficult time? And Simon would come on to this, but there's also about selling your way out. I personally don't believe there's anything wrong in selling right now. You may not get the cash into the bank, but it's about building those order books right now so that you can project the cash flow into the future. What you don't want is to have a big gap now, or a big gap in the future as a result of doing nothing right now. So you can sell your way out of this. You can keep communicating, you can keep talking, you can keep, working with your potential customers and your clients to get them to commit to buying from you in the future. So it's really important to have a really good grip of your finances at any time in your business, but absolutely right now, cash is king. Think about the cash you've got in your bank. Have you got enough cash, or potentially going to have enough cash in the bank to last you for the next 3 months? The one thing I'd say for that, just as a nice segue and leading into what Simon's going to be talking about, is having said about cutting back, the one thing I would absolutely say to every single person on this webinar listening is do not cut back on your marketing. Marketing is the one thing that's going to see you through this, about making sure you promote your business. I've talked already about positive communication, but marketing doesn't have to be expensive, but marketing is so crucial to moving your business forward. And there we go, Simon. If that's not a good lead in, I don't know what is. Over to you.
I'll take that, thank you. But just to mirror that point completely, and I wouldn't normally say it unless someone's done it, but or already said it. But I think historically, any business, the first thing they do when they go into tight times, they cut back on marketing. But it's one of the worst things that they can do, because all they do is they just kill the sales pipeline. And therefore, when they should be ready to go and accelerate, they've got to start from scratch, almost sometimes even worse, start from where people think they've disappeared. So keep your marketing up, just start doing it smart, if that makes sense.
Brilliant.
So, yes.
Keep going.
So marketing must shift, I suppose, the title for this. And I suppose from my point of view, when I think about what your marketing is, and when I started thinking about how we need to change, for me, I think the majority of businesses actually started changing a couple of years ago, but they haven't realized when we talk around the world of email and electronic communication. And that, I suppose, and it's one of the most beautiful words which everybody loves. It's probably one of the most favorite words after Brexit is GDPR. Because most people, before GDPR, all they used to do, a lot of businesses, they just used to spam. That whether that's with email, whether it's with direct mail campaigns, just go, right, we've got this database and we're just going to fire everything out and hope something sticks to the wall, because it's cheap through social media and we'll just keep trying it. But with GDPR kicking in, it's made a lot of businesses actually start thinking about what they're saying. And when they start thinking about what they're saying, they start saying more relevant information, and they start saying to more relevant people, which is your targeting and segmenting. And typically when you do that, you then tend to see a 60% uplift in your engagement rates. And engagement, as you'll probably hear when I'm talking, is probably one of my favorite words, because when you've got engagement, you've got people actually listening to you and paying attention. And when they do that, that's when they start wanting to buy from you. But so the key thing is, for me, it's not to, I want to drive sales, it's I want to drive engagement, because the sales fall out of that naturally. So when I suppose the first bullet point is, it kind of ties the first two bullet points tied together really. Your message has to be different. And I think this, the radio station analogy may have been an old Action Coach one. I'm not sure if you remember it, Steve. But think of yourself as being a bit like a radio station, and imagine that your customers are sitting in the car driving down the street. They're on the way to work. They're listening to, they've got various music playing away to them. If a song comes on they don't want to hear, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to reach over there. They're going to switch the radio station, aren't they? But once they've switched that radio station, do they 2-3 minutes later flick back to you? No, they probably listen for a while, get caught up listening to something they're interested in that other station, and you've lost your customers, your prospects. So what you've got to do is make sure you as a company broadcast the things that your customers want to hear. And again, it ties into the whole GDPR thing. It's about understanding your customer. If you can find what it is they're interested in, and I know that, Steve, you said you're a big fan of selling, but I kind of think that, and this touches a bit on one of the slides in a bit, is that we don't need to sell at the moment, because if we engage, the sales will fall out of it.
Yeah.
And if we start, so think about what is it your customers want to hear at the moment. The last thing they want to hear is a really strong sales message fired at them, because they're going to go, oh, we're in all these unprecedented times, it's difficult, and they don't want to hear the sales message. What people seem to want to be hearing at the moment is how people can help, what's the training, how can I learn, how can I grow, how can I get myself out of this situation without impacting. So start listening to your customers. How can you help them with that message? And then if you engage, as you sort of showed on that graph earlier, we're dropping down at the moment into that fear phase, and we're starting to come out. Go into the training phase, as Steve's doing here with his webinars. We've put together one which is helping people grow strong sales pipelines. Start talking to your customers and telling them, or engaging with them, and letting them know what it is they can do to grow their businesses as a whole, or whatever it is, but start telling them and break it down into little steps. But what you've got to do is you've got to make sure, and this is hammering it home a bit, is does it add value? So if we think about, and I'm talking around email marketing here, if we think about how, when traditionally people send an email newsletter out, and it's one of the words that really makes me cringe is the word newsletter, because when you think about it, is all you think about is, oh God, I'm being sold to, or this doesn't add value to me as a customer, because most people use newsletters to A, sell to the person, or B, tell them stuff that they think is important. So, hey guys, great, we've just got this latest ISO certificate, or we'll meet our team. And when it comes to it, most prospects don't care about that part. What they actually care about is, how can I get more business? How can I, and when it comes to it, that's what it boils down to. How can I get more business? How is this going to add value to my business? So yes, you might want to tell them about your ISO certificate, but don't tell them in the general newsletter. Break people off when you see them engaging and looking at certain areas. Break them off into a separate sort of stream of email communication, and tell them about that then. So perhaps if they go into a tendering phase, that's when they want to hear about all the good things that your company can do to add value. And use the tools that are out there and sort of tie it together so that you're looking at things, so you can actually see and track that engagement. So it's not just about email and sort of saying, I can see someone's clicked on this link, or they've opened this a couple of times, because they're kind of vanity graphics. They don't tell, or metrics, sorry. They don't really tell you anything, because an open's often generated by a spam filter or your mobile phone pre-downloading it. Clicks, again, are generated by spam filters. Also, it can be someone just clicking on it to find some general information. It doesn't tell you, so don't follow up on that. What you want to see is you want to see people opening, you want to see people clicking, you want to see them going to the website, coming back to the website, looking at these specific pages. And when you can start tracking and seeing that behavior, all in one place, you've then got a really nice picture of what that person's interested in. And that's when you can start firing those targeted specific messages to people about the ISO or about these specific products when they want to receive it, because then you're adding true value. Does all that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. And I completely agree, Simon. Many businesses I've been talking to over the last few weeks who haven't even gone back and looked at their marketing messages, their marketing campaigns from before lockdown started. And, you know, if you haven't done that, now is absolutely, you need to be doing that right now. You know, it's, as Simon, you quite rightly say, there needs to be, you know, so marketing with compassion right now, not the hard sell, but actually, you know, changing your messaging altogether. And to put that on a much bigger scale, you know, I was watching TV last night and the adverts that came up, you know, they were so different to the normal adverts we would see, you know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago on ITV or any other channel. In terms of your business, I guess it's about how you change your messaging and show compassion and show that you're there caring and supporting other people. And it's about that relationship building, isn't it, right now? I think that's what you're saying, Simon. It's building the relationship going forwards.
Very much. And I think one of the key things around that is, again, focusing on email here, but around email marketing is, don't just send your typical sort of newsletter out. A newsletter's brilliant. And it's a really powerful tool because it keeps you, going back to what you're saying at the start, Stephen, keeps you front of mind so that when people are ready to engage, they think of you and they know you're still there and you're still alive. But more importantly, start looking, I talked about sending these different strands of information out. Don't just send a newsletter out to those people around certain subjects. Change the formats so it looks different. So there's a great bit of brain called your RAS, and what that bit of brain, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but what your RAS, it kind of works as a filter. It's why you don't hear your heartbeat, why you don't notice the traffic in the background all the time. It filters the noise out, stop yourself going mad, and bringing that down to a really simple level. What it also does is, if you see that same newsletter going out every month, whilst you should be doing that, you don't focus, you don't pay attention to it properly. So break out, send some like graphical picture ones out. I've used to use an analogy like a postcard out to those people, maybe with just a targeted focus message, one specific subject. You know, come visit our webinar, or maybe you want to send out some personal emails, so emails that look as if you've written them personally. Put personalization in there. Have your email footer on that. Again, that's a brilliantly powerful tool, because you imagine someone's been sending all these newsletters out and you've been getting these postcards coming through, and then all of a sudden you get an email personally off Stephen. They are, wow, how great is that going to make me feel, rather than that it's the standard marketing material coming out. And that, to use my favorite word, drives massive engagement in your business.
Brilliant. Thank you, Simon. I've just put your other bullet points up on the next slide. Do you want to say any more to those?
Yeah, so I suppose I've really sort of jumped ahead in many of it.
Yeah, you covered a lot of it already. Yeah. Yeah,
but the key thing it's the intelligence side. I would say from this is, you've got all these tools, this information to hand, and yeah, obviously Popcorn can do a lot of this stuff for you, but it can do it soon. But even if you're using the simple tools, just make sure you look at it all, bring it all together in one place, and use that so you can make an informed decision. So maybe if you can tie up they've clicked on the I want a free blue widget, which you've tracked from your MailChimp account, tie that in together with your Google Analytics, where you can see the IP address they've gone through onto your website, and start looking and saying, you know what, but they've actually gone through and started looking at all my case study section, and they've been looking at the look at the case study, they've been onto the customer service, they've come back and looked at a specific service, one about quality. You know that they aren't really interested in a free widget. What they've got a supplier issue around quality. So pick the phone up, and this is where the whole compassion thing comes in. Is don't go, hi, do you want a free blue widget? Pick the phone up and just have a conversation with them. Hi, how's it all going? We've been sending you an email. Just want to check it's all okay. How are things going with your current suppliers? And that will start a conversation off, because they're in pain. They've been looking at it. They'll start talking to you around things, and it'll open that conversation and dialogue up. Then tie that in with your CRM system. So you make a note of all those sort of things they've said, and make sure you've got a follow-up action that comes in from that, so that you know what you're going to do next, rather than just letting them fall out. It starts to build a pipeline up. So I'll perhaps give you a call in 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever it is, but they know what you're going to do, or is there anything I can do to help you further? And those people are going to value that level of conversation far more than, here's my free blue widget.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I didn't mean to interrupt someone. No, there's a great phrase. We were on a marketing webinar the other day, and I think one of our colleagues, Sarah, who we both know, was saying about, how can you make the virtual visible right now? And we got onto a conversation about USPs and, how can you make yourself stand out from the crowd? Because it is such a crowded marketplace out there right now. Everyone's gone online, and it's all, I completely agree with what you're saying. It's all about the relationship you're building right now with your clients, with your potential customers, with your prospects. And even more so, I guess, with existing customers, about how you can go above and beyond. Because in my view, your existing customers are your cheapest, because you've already invested in marketing to them already. And it's about how can you turn them into your raving fans and your sales force for you, and keeping that communication going. And I guess that's a lot about what Popcorn does for many businesses in Birmingham.
Exactly, yeah. Well, and internationally, exactly. It's about bringing that information together. And if you've got that intelligence, and one of the things Popcorn does, it sort of scores. It also will flag up hot prospects for you based on their behaviours and their engagements. But if you've got that intelligence, say, right, they've done this, this, and this. We've got notes coming down into the CRM here about this. It tells you what to talk to them. It's one of the things, I don't know if you've noticed, is a lot of people are keeping their marketing up at the moment. They are still communicating. Well, obviously the good businesses are. But one of the things they've stopped doing is they've stopped actually talking to people. But what is people, when it comes to sales and marketing, what is it? People buy from people, don't they? And Absolutely. So we need to keep that human element involved in it. So as we're doing here, perhaps do more Zoom seminars, but pick the phone up and have a conversation with people and just have a chat. And you'll find the sales are still there. The opportunities are still there. You just need to talk to people a little bit more. So use the software, the intelligence to hone it down. So, well, I'm not going to make 100 phone calls. Here's the 3 phone calls I need to make. And this is what I need to be talking about them. And that's the key thing. But you're talking about interesting quotes. There's a brilliant one I often talk about, is it's around CRM. There's a lot of businesses, especially sort of startups or sort of earlier stage businesses, who keep a lot of their information in their head or on spreadsheets or in Outlook. Is when they're doing that, a typical business that doesn't use CRM, and I'm not trying to pitch Popcorn here, but generally use CRM, sales and marketing software, is they tend to lose £72,000 worth of business every single year. And the reason why is they miss all these opportunities, and they forget about sales, or they forget to give somebody a call at that key moment. So if you can just keep that communication going, I think £72,000 is, for some businesses, and a lot of businesses, is a lot of money. And just think what percentage of that is at the moment. And so break your activity down and work out almost, this is what each phone call's worth to me. Create yourself a behavior journal. So you can say, right, then I need to do 20 calls, which is what, so based on that number of yeses, this is worth this to me in pounds and pence. So start working on that, and that will drive you more business and more sales into your business completely, but use the intelligence to drive it, so you think working smarter.
Brilliant. Yeah, and there's another phrase that came up in a webinar the other week, was about the critical non-essentials. So it is about picking up the phone. And another great tip somebody shared with me the other day, think of your top 10 customers, and as well as having great CRMs to manage it and hone it down to maybe your top 5, top 10, when you're next at Tesco's, go and buy 10 chocolate bars, stick them in the post. We had a guy on the call the other day, he had a fencing panel company. Understandably, business has gone down, but he said what he's done is he's gone out and bought 20 packs of seeds and sent them to his top 20 customers. And as you find those by using an online CRM, but actually, those packs of seeds, people want nothing more than to do something to do right now. They go and plant them in the garden, and guess what? Those plants are growing all summer, reminding that customer of who sent the seeds in the first place. So it's just thinking about those critical non-essentials. But just while you've been talking, Simon, there's a couple of questions that just came in. Somebody's asked me to ask you, what is the difference? I mean, you've mentioned lots of different systems. So HubSpot, MailChimp, what's the difference between sort of Popcorn and those other systems that are out there at the moment?
Okay, so the likes, I suppose you can break the marketplace down to three sections really. So you've got the likes of HubSpot, which I mentioned at the start, Trello, spreadsheets. They're great tools, but what they do is they keep your data in separate places. So you've got to do a lot of legwork to get the information out of it, and I suppose it's quite a lot more time consuming, and it's not joined up really. You've then got the likes of Popcorn, which is customer conversion. We bring it all together with sort of all that sort of stuff, plus pipelines, web tracking. We bring it all together into one simple interface, and then score the activity. So you can see exactly who's interested and why. The next sort of step is the likes of HubSpot, Salesforce, those sort of software, which a lot of people think they need, but they don't actually need to go that far because it's too complex or too expensive for a business. So it's about finding what's right for you. Are you at the stage where you're quite comfortable to have that information quite siloed? Or is it you need some really complex reporting for sales teams and bespoke for your companies? Or is it the fact that you just want something that does the job without being too labor intensive, which sounds a little sales pitchy, but that's what Popcorn does. We keep it simple for you and give you the relevant information. So hopefully that answers that question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in one of your comments earlier on, you mentioned about some training, and somebody asked, is there training available and what free training are you offering?
Okay, so talking about diversifying, the one thing we've for about the past 7 or 8 years, we've run a physical workshop, which we do every single month, and we have usually sort of 15, 20 people come along to that workshop, and we teach them how to use email marketing to drive engagement, to drive sales. And it looks at everything from building a database through to email formats, through to getting your marketing message right. Obviously, we can't deliver that in person at the moment. So we've spent the last couple of weeks turning that to be a completely online training course. So we've produced a series of 12 videos that take people through those steps. And those videos, some of them are as short as 5 minutes, some are sort of 25 minutes, but it's practical steps which will teach you how to do that with exercises after each one of them. So if anybody wants to do that, I'll give Steve a link to share, but if you go onto popcorn.email, you'll be able to find it from there.
Right, and one of the things we've said in many of our webinars, and I'll show a slide in a moment, but now is a great time to invest not only in your business, but to invest in ourselves. And one of the key questions I was asking in a webinar yesterday is, thinking about yourself, what skills do you not have that potentially are holding you back and holding your business back? And that's a great example, Simon. People have all had to adapt and sort of get to grips with new technology and new ways of working in the last few weeks. It's about finding ways in which you can skill yourself up to drive your business forward. So yeah, I'd love to have that. I'd love to have that link, and we can share. We can share it, and we can. I know of contacts and business owners that would benefit from that, and I'm sure there's people listening who would be interested to know more about that. So we'll get the link and we'll get it onto the website and onto the YouTube version of this video as well. So people watching will be able to find that out. And lastly, Simon, you've been great coming on here. So I just want to give you the opportunity in terms of people want to contact you and any pricing information. Do you want to share any of that now, or do you want to put it in at the end? Over.
Yeah, thank you. I'll give you some information to share up at the end for it. But in essence, as I've sort of mentioned, we're a really simple sales and marketing software that kind of helps you nurture your customers to the point where you know how to talk to them so they buy, and it gives you the tools to do it. It's not complex. It's not expensive. Our pricing packages start from we've just launched a new package to try and help people during this time, which is a sort of a CRM only with sort of sales pipelines and all that sort of stuff in there. But that starts from as little as £5 a month, and then it moves up depending on what you like. So very cost effective, but yeah, just start doing your behaviours is the key message I would give from this. To quote yourself, Stephen, just do it.
Right. And in terms of just doing it, I started off this webinar by talking about Washbrook and Blackadder and having a plan. And it is really important right now. If you don't have a business plan, think about, what you're going to do over the next 90 days. What are you personally going to do every single day? Do you have a daily ritual of getting up in the morning, having a day planned out, making sure you've got that work-life balance planned out, particularly as I think we were talking about earlier on, Simon, if you've got children at home, you're homeschooling, you've got other demands on your time. We're not all sitting at home doing nothing. We've got huge demands on our time when we're trying to juggle those things. So do you have a plan for your business? Do you have a plan of how you're going to spend your time each week? So you've got time carved out of your week to spend on your business, not just running and firefighting and doing the operational things that need to be done day to day. And just think about what you're going to market and sell in the future. Now is a great time to consider your vision, your goals, your business. And the one thing I always ask every business owner when I first come into contact with them, I may have asked you, Simon, many times before, but why did you set the business up? What was a vision and what was a goal? I'm not asking you that question to share now, but it's a question I ask every single person. Why did you set that business up? What was your dream at the time? And how has that journey been? And now is a great time to go back to that same question. If you've not asked it for yourself for a while, why did you set the business up? What were you trying to achieve? Because I'm sure most of us didn't set our own business up to be working 90 hours a week, flustered, stressed, and firefighting. We set it up because we wanted to achieve a quality of life and a dream and a goal that is different for every one of us. But now is a great time to go back and reflect on that, think about the journey so far, and think about what you can do in this time to change your business going forward, and think about what you're going to market and sell, how you're going to sell it and how you're going to market it, and how you're going to deliver and charge for your services going forward. It's about survival first, but also not forgetting about planning for thriving into the future. And that's where there's a great opportunity to work with business owners, business mentors, coaches, to get support and advice and guidance from people like Simon, ourselves, and others. There's plenty of great support and advice out there right now to help you and to ensure your business survives. And that's just a great lead in. I'm not going to go through this myriad of government support right now, but what we have done is we've brought it all together into one easy document. We keep reviewing government guidelines and government websites on a daily basis, and we keep updating our document, and we'll make sure that link gets put onto this webinar as well. But there's a huge amount of support out there, unprecedented, and it's a great reflection on how the government sees small businesses and the contribution they make to the economy right now, and have done in the past, and where they want to see them in the future. So it's about making sure you do research, and even small things like research your insurance policy. I was working with a business the other day, a few weeks ago. In fact, it was a pub, and they were talking just before they went into lockdown about closing down, and they were sort of really stressed and panicking about the impact that's going to have on their business. And I said, well, have you checked your insurance policy? And he said, no. I said, well, how long have you had the same policy? And they'd had the same policy for 20 years. A well-established local brewery, local pub. And it's not so common now, but because their policy was so old, they had a clause in it which covered them for business interruption due to diseases and the current situation we find ourselves. So they just changed their world straight away. So, there is great government support, but also look at other options as well. Make sure you do your research and find the facts, which is what I said earlier on in this webinar as well. There is support out there, and we'll put all that together online for you as well. I just want to finish by showing this slide before I talk about how we can help you. And I love this slide. I think you've seen this before, Simon. I've shared it in other forums. But we at Action Coach have broken down what we see the route forward, the path ahead, into 5 key phases. And my little gold star is moving along that journey. We have got no timescale on this chart, and I haven't got time to go through it in detail with you now. We do a whole another webinar on the path to opportunities ahead. But the reason I just want to share this is we're in phase 2 training, warming up, and we've talked a lot, and Simon's talked a lot about marketing strategies, thinking about your products and services, your vision and mission for going forward. Now is a great time to make sure you're training yourself, you're equipping yourself with your skills, the skills of your staff, and you're putting things in place ready for that warm-up phase. Because as soon as lockdown ends, we're going to be going into that warm-up phase, and that's where you should be using all the time you've used to plan now to start getting your marketing in place, implementing your plans and strategies, making sure that you're filling those order books and filling your pipeline, and making sure it's got no gaps in it, as Simon has said. Because for once in many, many years, many decades, businesses in your sector, in your industry, are all going to be at the same place, in the same starting block, to run the race of their lives. And it's about making sure your business is head and shoulders above the rest, making sure that you personally have got the energy, the clarity, the focus, the commitment, and the ownership to drive your business forward, and the team that are working with you. We've all got that one sprint, and every single business is going to be at the same place. So how can you make yourself stand out? How can you differentiate? How can you use the marketing right now to drive your business forward, to make sure that you are a winner and not a loser in that race? And also to ensure that you can compete and grow into the world and the economy and the way we work going forwards. And we don't know what that's going to quite look like. It's certainly shifted and changed from where we were only 3 or 4 weeks ago. But it's about making sure your business is ready, or businesses if you have more than one, but your business is ready to compete and run that race. And I love that bit along the bottom. It goes right back to the heart of what you've been saying, Simon, about consistent and constant communication with your suppliers, your existing customers, your prospects, and of course your staff, to make sure you're all on the same page and they know that you're there, ready and waiting to run that race and to have their business again. I hope you found that really useful this morning. It's just gone 11, so I'm just going to wrap up. I say I try and keep to about an hour. If you have found this morning useful and you want to get back in touch with us, we're offering everybody on this webinar a free coaching session for an hour. We'd love to pick up the conversation, have a one-to-one. We can also signpost you towards Simon if it's more about marketing. We'd love to pass those contacts and pass Simon's contacts on to you as well. If you haven't done a plan yet for your business going forwards, we had a great 3-hour session. I had 15 people on a webinar yesterday, and they all came out of that with a plan for them personally and for their business for the next 3 months. So if you haven't got one, we're running 2 of those every single week. Please do join us. We've got another one next Monday. I'm also really excited, and Simon, you're welcome to join us. We've got a virtual book club starting tomorrow, and I've been reading Who Moved My Cheese. It's a great book, and it's all about different attitudes to change and how we cope with change, and it's really applicable to your business and to where we all find ourselves right now. We're starting that. We've got a group of 10 or so joining us tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock for an hour to start reading that together, or if you've started reading, to catch up and review and to reflect. So it's a great book club that's focused just on business books. So if you want to join us on that, please do get in touch. Again, our details on the website. And lastly, please do connect with us on social media, and our contact details are on the screen. So just remains me to say thank you to you, Simon. Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you've enjoyed an hour with me. I certainly enjoyed an hour listening to you. And most of all, I hope that our potential clients, those that we work with, those we haven't yet worked with, will find this useful and will benefit from it in the future. Simon, I'll just hand over. Is there anything else you want to add to that before we wrap up?
No, just to sort of kind of mirror your message, really. Thank you very much. It's a really enjoyable morning. And if there's anything we can do to help anybody, just drop us a message. And yeah, we'll do whatever we can to help you. Thank you, guys.
Great. Well, thank you on behalf of us both. Thank you for joining us. I hope you stay well, stay home and stay safe. And on behalf of both of Simon and myself, if you are out working or have colleagues who are out working because you're a key worker or you're providing a key service to the community in Birmingham right now, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for putting yourself out there for the benefit of all of us, and do stay well. So have a great afternoon, and here's to your future success of your business. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.